Good morning. Well, I've got good news to share with you this morning, but it will probably seem somewhat technical, or at least part of it will, to some of you, and maybe some of you will be a little disappointed in me for some of the things that I'm going to share today. But I'm going to share them anyway. The title is An Affidavit of Truth, Why It's Important. Yesterday, I attended the evidentiary hearing in the US Bankruptcy Court in order to clarify the provisions made in the case involving the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that has been ongoing since July 2005. I was assured that there was no intent to take my home or anything else from me, which was very good news. When I got home, I prepared an affidavit of truth that will be submitted to that court and all other parties involved in the matter. Why do I do this when I was given verbal assurance? I want it documented in writing to make sure that everyone clearly understands the order of that court in regard to my home. I advise everyone involved with the courts to take this extra step. So anyway, here's a 3-page affidavit. 1, 2, 3 pages. Whoops. 1, 2, 3 pages. In which I reiterate what I heard in the court yesterday, the testimony given by the trustee in the bankruptcy case. And also attending was the attorney for the law firm. It wasn't the attorney who represents the plaintiffs, but an attorney from the law firm, since the attorney who was of record was on a medical leave and he could not be there. In any case, it was absolutely stated clearly at least twice, and I think perhaps more than twice, that they don't want to take, there's nothing required of me. The proceeding in the bankruptcy does not require my home. The unliquidated asset that needed to be liquidated, which was really my big unclear thing, I already had clarified that the $130,000 that I thought they wanted me to pay, that was a misunderstanding on my part. So that wasn't true. But there was still that clause in there that said that permission was granted to liquidate an unliquidated asset of the trust, which I thought referred to my home because it wasn't clear. But it was clearly stated in the testimony yesterday that did not in no way represent my home. It was an asset that since then has already been liquefied according to the testimony of the trustee before the court. So I did not object to the order, which also states that this is part of what the order will be. This was the motion, and now it's been to be granted as an order. General release of all claims against Ronald Van Dyke, individually and as trustee of the Mary Horgan Living Trust, from any other party in the matter, including Shriners Hospital for Children, Marion Johannesson, Sandra Oak, Bob Wilhoit, and PNC Bank, arising in connection with the disposition of trust assets. It includes PNC Bank in there. And I also reaffirm that no rebuttal has been issued on the previous affidavit that I submitted, Affidavit of Truth, which means that everything in that affidavit now stands as fact in the matter. And this is why you present affidavits. Now, I reiterated again, I reaffirmed again principles of law in this affidavit as I did in the previous one. These are the principles of commercial law that include but are not limited to the following maxims. A workman is worthy of his or her hire. All are equal under the law. In commerce, truth is sovereign. Truth is expressed in the form of an affidavit. An unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. All matters must be expressed to be resolved. He who leaves the field of battle first loses by default. Sacrifice is the measure of credibility. If there is no willingness to sacrifice, there is no liability, responsibility, authority, or measure of conviction. A lien or claim can be satisfied only through rebuttal of an affidavit, point for point, resolution by jury, or payment. Commercial processes, including this affidavit and the required responses to it, are non-judicial and prejudicial because 1. No judge, court, government, or any agencies thereof, or any other third parties whatsoever can abrogate anyone's affidavit of truth, and only a party affected by an affidavit can speak and act for him or herself and is solely responsible for responding with his or her own affidavit of truth, which no one else can do for him or her. That last part means that when the judge gave the order to strike my affidavit from the record, he was acting unlawfully. And this will go to that judge too. And also went, and that was stated in the previous one, which also went to that judge. PNC Bank has no claim against my property, according to what will now become an order of the United States Bankruptcy Court, which is a federal court. So I'm giving you that information, and I mentioned in there that I had laid my land patent. I had mentioned it, and I took it out of the envelope that it was in standing in front of the bench at the court, and the attorneys were on either side of me, the trustee and the attorney for the plaintiff, and it was laying right there. And I mentioned it in the record that I had a land patent, that it was the highest form of proof of land ownership, and none of that was contested on the record. There was no rebuttal, no discussion, but it was laying right there, and I was ready to discuss it if it needed to be discussed. Now, a land patent is no state court or law enforcement agency can take a property protected by a land patent. It's absolutely bedrock, and I have the forms to file a complaint with the Department of Justice if anyone tries to take my property by any lower court order. Only the federal government can do that, and the federal government has never been involved in this issue, and I don't expect that they will be. So I honestly believe that the issue is pretty close to being laid to rest once and for all regarding my home. And now I don't know that because I don't know what this attorney for PNC Bank is going to do. She's been ruthless and relentless in ignoring everything that I've ever done. I mean, it's as if I don't even do it. She's totally a lawless person. And another reason to do affidavits is because I don't always trust lawyers very much. Some of them may tell the truth, but it's uncommon because the very nature of the statutory law system in the United States and other countries as well is basically unlawful under common law. It doesn't hold up under principles and maxims of common law, which those maxims that I read are common law maxims about commercial interactions between parties. And by the way, it's actually unlawful for a natural person, a real human being, to contract ever with a fiction. Only people that are on the same level can interact with each other and create a contract. A contract must be between equal parties, and a living person can never contract with a dead entity. And all corporations are dead entities. These are things that you need to understand in the law, because you don't realize that when you're getting a driver's license or anything else, in effect, you're contracting with a dead entity. which is something that I just did the day before yesterday. I went to the state office to get an ID so that I could enter the courtroom, because it's required in federal courts that you must have a state ID with your picture on it. Now, someone told me, just take your birth certificate. Don't do that. And this is where I've said that I'm probably going to disappoint a lot of people. I got a state-issued picture ID, but not just any old picture ID, not just your standard picture ID. I actually got the state to agree that I could get a driver's license and protect my rights, which is all that I really wanted to do. I have no objection to having a driver's license. In our current culture, it is something that gives at least, it brings peace, it brings a resolution. What is the word that I used in the original claim that I made? To avoid conflict and controversy. To avoid controversy. You know, it's not a battle I want to fight. So anyway, I was issued the day before yesterday a driver's license, good until my birthday 2020, because I'm a safe driver. So I now have a driver's license signed with all my rights reserved, right on the driver's license itself. I signed it by, Ron Van Dyke, ARR, next line, all rights reserved. In other words, I'm not waiving any of my rights by creating that little agreement with the state. It's a state picture ID, and I can now drive, although there are still some things I want to do to protect now my automobile. I'm actually going to be putting my automobile in a trust and registering it in a trust, not in my own name. So it's property of a common law trust, a business trust, and it will be untouchable by the state. And this is what I'm doing with all of my property. I'm making it unavailable. I'm making all of my property unavailable to lawsuit. I'm protecting it from future lawsuits, so that nobody can, at least not lawfully, come after me. So I feel like I'm getting very, very close to resolution on all of these legal issues that have been facing me. I don't feel I'm completely there yet, because I don't know. Oh, of course, and I filed the counterclaim against the sheriff deputy and the judge in the matter of the driver's license issue with that court. So that still has to be done. But in regard to my home and the driver's license issue itself, those are resolved. And I'm working toward resolution of all of them. It's going to be very interesting to see how this finally plays out. And in the meantime, I'm really hoping that this Uranus retrograde that we're entering today, and will be in until the 13th of December. I'm really hoping this will be the final things that bring down and expose all of the fraud being committed by the government and the banks and the financial institution, and that we will be moving collectively as a human race toward resolution of these issues. The issues that are mine, I believe, affect everybody else, and everything we do to stand in truth is a step in the direction of liberating everybody. And there will come a time we don't need the driver's licenses, because it just won't be necessary. But I don't want to create unnecessary battles. I would have renewed my driver's license in 2010 had the state accepted my offer at that time, but they refused to accept it. This time they accepted my offer, and I was really pleased with that. So I abided by my end of the compromise. I conditionally accepted the requirement to get a driver's license if I could protect my rights, and I've done that. So that's all I'm going to share with you this morning. I do thank you once again for listening, and keep the faith. Namaste. Yes.